Hello there, my name's Card. I'm a social sciences researcher and writer, and here on my YouTube page, I often enjoy exploring and questioning how people's beliefs play out in the real world. Often, that means citing a lot of incredibly far-off scenarios and abstract hypotheticals. But today, I'd like to very quickly just share some simple thoughts as they can be related to one of the most well-known but most misrepresented civil trials of recent history, 1994's Liebeck v. McDonald's restaurants. But you might know it better as the hot coffee lawsuit. This particular case has, by now, gone not just thoroughly through the US legal system, but has spent almost 30 years stuck in the court of public opinion. For those who don't know, or might just need a refresher, the Liebeck v. McDonald's case was centered on this 79-year-old woman, Stella Liebeck, who purchased a cup of hot coffee at a McDonald's drive-thru window, and in the process of drinking it, spilt it on her lap and thighs. The coffee itself had been served at such a high temperature that it ended up causing severe third-degree burns to the woman's entire pelvic area, and she had to be hospitalized for a week to receive skin grafts. After her treatment, Liebeck simply approached McDonald's, asking them to cover her medical bills, and the restaurant refused outright. Neither side backed down, so the matter ends up going to court, and when Liebeck's attorneys bring to light both just how little McDonald's did to ensure its products weren't being served scaldingly hot, and how extensively she'd been burned, the jury finds in her favor and awards her about $5 million in today's money worth of compensatory and punitive damages that McDonald's then has to pay up. It certainly wasn't the first time McDonald's was found legally at fault for an injury like this either. But the story and coverage of the trial just so happened to get a lot of play in the media from the outset, and the debate around who was at fault in the public consciousness certainly didn't stop after the actual trial itself came to a close. Liebeck's lawsuit, its success, and the surprising enormity of the payout she'd been awarded by the court were all the subject of a lot of very pointed discussion. It was being talked about on TV, on the radio, in print, everywhere. This unassuming little lawsuit had become one of the biggest stories of the year. Rolling news coverage, competing editorial columns debating the issue, and at one point, Seinfeld, probably the biggest show on television at the time, did 2 separate episodes parodying the incident. And whether it was because of overt corporate peddling or the then emergent 24-hour alarmist news cycle, or just plain old mid-90s cynicism, or even something else entirely, the dominant narrative that began to assert itself within the popular zeitgeist was that Liebeck had gotten away with the mother of all frivolous lawsuits, and her story was pretty quickly getting paraded around like a complete joke. For decades, the incident would be disparagingly cited as a textbook example of the legal system getting it wrong, second in notoriety perhaps only to that very same year's O.J. Simpson trial. Even by the time Stella Liebeck passed away in 2004, the story surrounding her injuries and the subsequent tussle in the courts was still being obfuscated by the persisting view of many that McDonald's hadn't actually done anything wrong in allowing beverages to be served so hot one spill could quite literally scar someone for life. It's only been in much more recent years that the narrative surrounding the events has begun to shift, and these days, more and more people have been sharing the story without the implicit victim-blaming overtones. This might have been one instance in which the internet's capacity for spreading information and correcting the record has worked perfectly as intended, as it seems, at least to my eyes, that for a few years now, it's been in vogue online to report on the fact that McDonald's really was the party at fault here. The new counter-narrative, which has begun to sprout up thanks to the comparative ease with which the internet was able to find and disseminate the actual facts of the case, and perhaps a broad move away from the cynical 90s attitude towards a culture of more righteous anti-corporate anger and a desire to correct the record among the most likely demographics to be active online. We've thankfully seen a sea change in the reporting of, at the very least, this one particular high-profile civil case. And for whichever reason that it might now have eventually gotten around to happening, it's fantastic. But despite the recent renewal of interest in the lawsuit itself and growing retroactive support for Liebeck, I've yet to see anyone make one particular observation about the whole affair yet. So be it. I'll make it then. Consider this, me getting on record what I believe to be the best possible take on the hot coffee lawsuit, as well as all others like it that have happened, or inevitably will continue to happen. While McDonald's was unambiguously at fault in the Liebeck situation, I don't think that actually has any bearing on why I'd want to see them lose the case. One party here is just your regular, unassuming, everyday pensioner, and the other is one of the biggest corporate entities on the planet. The fact of who was actually in the wrong in a liability suit like this has absolutely zero bearing on my preferred outcome. Even if you had a case where the plaintiff had obviously staged the whole incident, had not actually suffered any misfortune at all, and was transparently doing the whole legal process thing in the hopes of getting a quick settlement payout, I'd still side with them 100% of the time. Not only do I really love an underdog story, realistically, just about any international corporation deserves to be taken down a peg or two. So I'm going to barrack for anyone trying to wring them out of any amount of cash for even the tiniest perceived wrongdoing, regardless of whether the law or wider public opinion on it thinks it's justified. I think that any claimant willing to go up against big business like that and become a thorn in their side over even the most trivial or even the most made up thing ought to be an inspiration to us all. And any lawyer who might manage to get that sort of client a settlement out of a case like this is a hero. Frankly, there isn't and won't ever be any entity worth $1 billion that doesn't deserve to have all its assets confiscated for something or other it's done. It doesn't matter if it's because of the way it treats its workers, or the way they can skirt regulation entirely by flashing enough petty cash at the levers of power, or if it's simply just karmic retribution for the amount of one-sided lawsuits of their own they've used to get their own way over plenty of regular people who will never be able to legally fight back the way these financial giants can. The way I see it, these organizations and their functionaries are perfectly valid targets for financial dispossession by any means, any time, under any circumstances. And anyone who says otherwise is a corporate bootlicker as far as I'm concerned. Thank you for listening. I hope that's left you with something to think about. Once again, my name's Card. This has been Card Posting. If you'd like to hear more from me, feel free to subscribe or take a look at the back catalogue of other videos on this channel. Bye for now, and have a lovely day.